Today I'm going to tell you 5 things that I wish someone had told me before I started songwriting. And whether you're coming to this video as a beginner or someone who's been writing songs for ages, these 5 things are kind of crucial to building a songwriting practice, and I reckon they'll help everyone no matter where you're at. I'm Pete, I'm a songwriter and a producer, and I work with artists who often struggle with the same creative blocks that I've faced myself. The first thing that changed everything for me was understanding that originality isn't what I thought it was. My dad was a ventriloquist and a playwright, and growing up, he always told me that originality is the most important thing in art. He really drove that into me. But this belief really held me back as a songwriter because every song had to meet this impossible standard of being completely original. Like I didn't feel comfortable just writing with G, C, D, for example. I had to come up with the most unique or interesting chords. And I was a huge Bob Dylan fan, still am. And I remember finding this interview from 2004, which really challenged this for me. And in the interview, he talks about his songs being based on old Carter family tunes. And the Carter family is like the foundation of so much country and bluegrass music. And in the interview, he goes on to say that he wrote the song Blowin' in the Wind in 10 minutes. He just put new words to an old spiritual. And this really upset the balance in me at the time, because I was like, I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan, but my dad is saying you must be original. Originality is the most important thing. But it turned out to be a really healthy upset because it led me to realize what I'm going to share is tip number 1, which is that you don't have to be 100% original. You just need to bring your perspective to familiar forms. And it's something that I had suspected for a long time. Like when I learnt Wonderwall, I already knew Disarm by the Smashing Pumpkins. All these songs are using E minor, C add 9, G, D sus. And I was learning these songs just thinking wow, that's a coincidence. And it kind of is a coincidence. I don't think those songs are rip-offs of one another. But the thing that I embraced once I read that Bob Dylan quote was hey, if I wanted, I could write a song that had those chords in it. It's great to be original, but it's not the be-all and end-all. So the second thing I want to share would have saved me from writing dozens of songs that felt clever, but emotionally empty. So a lot of songwriting advice tells you to start with a title or a hook. This was the kind of advice I would get when I started writing songs. I would have notepads full of title ideas that felt kind of catchy or clever, and I would try to write into those ideas. Occasionally I would stumble upon a song that I thought, wow, that's a really great title, and the lyrics seemed to flow really naturally and really meant something to me. But it didn't happen often. And a lot of the songs I love from my favorite artists don't feel like they started with the title at all. And I think it was Joni Mitchell that I was listening to one day when I was just thinking to myself, there's no way she's starting with the title in this song, It just felt like she's starting with what matters to her. And that's what I want to share as tip number 2 is start with what's meaningful to you, not what sounds catchy or clever. I got to meet this amazing songwriter producer called John Michael Rochelle recently, who's won a Grammy, by the way. One of the things about his process that really stuck with me is that he's always trying to push the artist to write something that only they could write, something that's so them that it would be impossible for anyone else to do it. And there's loads of ways you can do that. Of course, if you're a great singer or a great guitar player or a great drummer or a great producer, you can lean into that. But you can also do it just through what you say in the song. And that's where it all comes back to what's meaningful to you, what's a part of your story, where have you come from, mining into that material that no one else in the world has access to. It's unique to you. And the more you embrace that, the more unique you're going to be as an artist. And in the end, that's going to last so much longer than a catchy hook or a title. It's great if the song has those things too, but don't get caught up on that either. The third thing transformed me into someone who collects song fragments into someone who actually finishes songs. How many unfinished songs do you have? Voice memos, fragments in journals, ideas that felt promising but never got pushed to the finish line. I have hundreds of these fragments. I'd have verse ideas and chorus ideas, and I'd just jump from one to the next shiny idea as soon as something felt difficult to finish. And there's this mental trap that a lot of us fall into where we go, I don't like where this idea is going, so why would I finish it? And that makes us abandon ideas before we've even fully explored them. So tip number 3 is finish bad songs to get to good songs. Completing songs is a muscle that you have to strengthen. And I saw an interview with John Mayer recently where he talks about this with a really interesting perspective.
Why does my liking my idea have to stop me from writing the idea?
Right.
Maybe what you like and don't like right now is not essential to making it.
It can be a good idea, but you don't have to love it.
Not yet.
Right.
So adopting this approach has 3 main benefits. The first one is that finishing songs forces you to make big, bold, creative decisions. You ask questions like, what would I have to do to turn this into something that I do like? And then you're more likely just to throw out a Hail Mary to try and get it across the line. And a lot of the time, you're gonna get there. The second benefit is that it allows you to move on to new ideas rather than flip-flopping between unfinished fragments of songs. And the most important benefit is that it builds that muscle of completion. So the fourth insight I want to share is probably the most practical one, and it has to do with inspiration. So most songwriters wait for inspiration to strike. That's how I always approached writing when I started songwriting. I would wait for these like lightning bolt moments of inspiration, just stop whatever I was doing and like let the song just pour out of me. And that is an amazing feeling. Like I'm sure we've all had that at some stage. For a lot of us, that's why we start writing songs, because that feels so good. And at some point along the way, I remember somebody telling me, you do need a regular, consistent songwriting practice. Like put time aside, turn up, show up for work, and like write no matter what. So I remember I started to try that. I'd turn up and I'd sit at my desk with my guitar and my notepad, and I'd kind of just stare at the page and not a lot would happen. And when I did write, it felt really forced. So there's something you can do to get around this, and it's to keep a daily journal. And I know you're probably sick of people in the world telling you to journal every day, but this kind of journaling has a really specific purpose for songwriting. You're building a well of reliable source material for your songs. I remember seeing this documentary about the artist Jean-Michel Basquiat, and it talked a lot about the books that he used as source material for his art. So a lot of the time he'd use like an anatomy book or a book of symbols as a starting point for a painting that he was working on. He wouldn't just go in blank canvas every time. And this is what I'm suggesting you use your journal for when you sit down to write songs. So if you haven't already, start a daily journal, even just 5 minutes. Talk about what's happening to you right now. I like to dive in and write like the world's most average autobiography and just choose stories from my life. So the final tip I have for you is collaborate. It's the hardest one in my opinion. You might already be doing it, and if so, congratulations. But for me, that was always the hardest one to come to terms with. I so badly just wanted to be great at everything musical, including songwriting, on my own. I wanted to be the best songwriter in the room, the best guitar player, the best producer when I started producing. But gradually I started to realize that like, hey, there's a ton of people who are better at songwriting, production, guitar playing than I am. And instead of fighting against that and being jealous of them and isolating myself more, at some point I decided I just have to embrace this if I'm gonna grow as a songwriter. I remember being in a band with another songwriter who is truly and still is one of the best songwriters that I think I've ever met. And it was a real shock to my ego because I was like, damn, this guy's good. But as soon as I started to open myself up to that collaborative process, I realized that there were things that he actually respected about how I approached writing that were different to how he did it. We'd each bring things to the table that the other couldn't have come up with. And we saw these songs, form in front of us that were bigger than both of us. Like, they were truly better than things that we could have come up with on our own. And I think some of the songs that I'm most proud of were written with him. So again, as soon as you can, collaborate. Find people who are better than you, ideally, and see if you can get in the same room and learn from them, write with them. Don't be afraid to share the ideas that you naturally have, because like I experienced, they might actually really respect the way that you approach things, because it might be really different from how they approach things as well. So if you want to dive even deeper into the stuff I've talked about today, I made a free 5-day songwriting course that gets delivered straight to your email. It's called How to Finally Finish Your Songs. The link's in the description. And if you want to learn some more songwriting techniques, check out this video next.